Finding out that there are color shifts or exposure shifts in your footage after your production can be really frustrating. So I'm going to show you the exact steps that you need to do to combat that, to get the most out of your footage. So let's jump into DaVinci Resolve and let's get cracking. So here we are in DaVinci Resolve, currently on the color page. As you can see, we have this clip here, and this is the clip that we're going to be using today. So let's just scrub through, and we've got a girl leaning up against a palm tree, looking into the sun. You can see we don't have anything on our node graph. This is a rec709 shot, and you can see that there's nothing on our timeline viewer either. So let's head back over to our clip node graph. We're going to head over here to the color space transform. So we're just going to take that, we're going to drop that onto there. So we're going to come over to here to our input color space. We're just going to drop down, and we are going to select rec709 Gamut 2.4. Just like that. And our output color space, we're going to be working in DaVinci Wide Gamut, so we're just going to put our output color space to DaVinci Wide Gamut, and this one is going to be DaVinci Intermediate. So now we're going to come across to our node. We're going to take this across to the right hand side, the left hand side, sorry, of our node tree. We're going to right click, we're going to add a node, add a serial, and we're just going to take this node and bring it across to the right hand side of the node tree. We're going to come over to here, we're going to click on this, and we're just going to copy. And now we're going to highlight our second node, and we're going to paste that. Now you can see the image has got a lot worse here. So all we need to do is we need to come over to this button here, which is the swap. We need to click this, and now you can see that the image is normalized again. And just to double check we don't have any unwanted color shifts, we're just going to turn these off and on, and you can see there is no shift, so we're good to go. As mentioned in other videos, this space here means we are now working in DaVinci Wide Gamut. However, because we do have a baked in gamma curve, we need to just be that little bit more careful. Okay, cool. So let's head across to our first node, which is over here. Let's right click, let's add a node, add a serial, and we're going to do this 2 more times. So right click, add a node, add serial, and once more. So we're just going to go ahead and quickly label these. So this one's going to be our exposure. This one's going to be our contrast. And this one is going to be our color. The first thing we want to do is we want to come over to here and bring up our scopes, and this will allow us to see what's actually happening in the image. You can see here we've got quite a lot of dynamic range. We don't have too much room in the highlights, and we do have sort of values hitting towards the 0 from here. We've got slightly lifted green and quite a compressed blue. So these are just things that we just need to take note of. So taking into account all of that, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to come up to here, which is our exposure node. We're going to click on that. We're going to come down to our lift, gamma and gain, which is just down here. We're going to come across to our gamma, and we're just going to roll this down. And what this is going to do, this is going to compress the image. So because we're compressing the image, we are losing the top end over here. So we're going to come back over to our gain here, and we're just going to roll that up to increase that. And you can see that we've added quite a bit more contrast just using that gamma and that gain wheel. So let's come over to the exposure node. Let's turn this off and on, and you can see that effect over here on the scopes as well. So let's just do that one more time. Okay, great. I think we will come over to here, which is the contrast. We're just going to roll this up a little bit, and now let's just take this pivot down to raise that up, just to open that image, and that's going to give us a little bit more of a filmic contrasty look. So let's just highlight the exposure and the contrast. Let's just turn these off and on, and we're in a really good place from just a few short moves. So let's head across to our color. We're just going to come down to our lift, and we're just going to roll this down to the cyan, like so, and we're going to counter that by coming over here to the gain and just bringing that up towards the warmth, like so. So let's just turn that off and on. We haven't done a huge amount to the image, but I'm really happy with where we are here. So about here is where we're going to be doing our in-clip exposure adjustments. So in order to do this, what we need to do is we need to come across to our exposure. We're going to right click, we're going to add a node, and we are going to add a parallel. So let's just take these 2 nodes and let's bring this across to tidy up the node tree a little bit. And let's just bring this one down here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to this little icon here, which is our keyframe. So we're going to click on that, and this is going to bring up our keyframe player. Now what you'll notice over here on the keyframe is that you've got connector 1, 2, 3, parallel mixer, connector 5, etc, etc. And these all link to the nodes directly in the node tree. So corrector 3 over here means that this is over there. And you also have this master keyframe track up here at the top as well. Let's go over to here, which is the keyframe playhead. Let's move this to where we think we want to start. And I think perhaps here is a good place to start our adjustments. So we're just going to come over to the keyframe track connector 3. We're going to right click, and we are going to add a dynamic keyframe. And now we're going to bring this across to about here, right towards the end of the clip. We're going to do that again. We're going to right click and we're going to add a dynamic keyframe. Now what you'll see here is those two keyframes are connected with these sort of dashes here, and this place here represents the middle of that. But what we want to do is we want to go over to our second keyframe. We want to make sure we highlight this red, and now we are going to come over to the gamma, which is here, and we're just going to roll that down to compress that slightly. And I think we'll just counter that by going up on the gain. So if we turn this off and on, you can see that those adjustments now are on that keyframe. However, if we go to the start of the keyframe and turn this off and on, you can see that we don't have any adjustments. So that adjustment will get stronger the further we go across to our keyframe. So let's just click on this one again and let's just turn this off and on. So I always like to do this type of work under the exposure node early on the node tree. For any color adjustments, which is what we're going to do next, I want to do that under the color. So just quickly, if you are getting anything out of this video, it would mean the world to me if you could drop me a comment and subscribe to my channel. I'd be very grateful. Thank you. So let's head across over to our color node, which is here. We're going to right click, we're going to add a node, and we're going to add another parallel. And we're going to do the exact same thing, what we just done there, except on corrector number 7. So now we've got our parallel node. What we need to do is we need to come down to our keyframe. We're going to highlight under our first keyframe on connector 3, and we're going to come down to connector 7, and we are going to right click on the playhead and add a dynamic keyframe. We're now going to scroll across to this second keyframe. We're going to do the same thing again. So we're going to right click, add a dynamic keyframe, and you can see this keyframe is now complete. So we're going to highlight our second keyframe to make sure it goes red, and now we're just going to come over here to the temp and the tint, and we're just going to make some color adjustments to give this a real sunsetting look. So let's go across to the right on our temp and just increase that, and I think there about 500 is probably enough. And because sunsets usually have a hint of pink, we're now going to come across to the temp here, and we are just going to roll this up into the magenta like so. So let's just scrub through the timeline to see what we have. And you can see clearly here that those two adjustments are doing a lot of work. I think her skin tones are a little bit too hot. So underneath node 7, we're going to right click, we're going to add a node and add another parallel. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come up to our color, which is up here. We're going to right click, we're going to go to presets, and we're going to go to 6 vector red. And this will highlight all of the red pixels in this image. So we're going to click that, just going to go up over to our highlight mode, which is just here. Click that, and that will show us where all these pixels are living. I'm quite happy with this key. We could go in deeper and clean this up, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to click away from our highlight. So now that we've done that, we need to set the keyframe. So again, we're going to come across to our playhead in our keyframe. We're going to highlight that over there. This one is node number 8. So we need to come down to corrector number 8, which is here. We're going to right click, we're going to add a keyframe, add a dynamic keyframe. So we're going to right click, add a dynamic keyframe, and we're going to come across to our second keyframes, which we've already got set, and add another dynamic keyframe on connector 8. And this will now link to the node number 8 on our node graph. So we're just going to click to make sure that that keyframe is red. We're now going to come across to our node number 8. Now that we've done that, we're going to come across to our offset, which is just down here, and we're just going to pull some of that red out of her skin, and we're going to bring that down towards the cyan and the blue. So all I really want to do with this offset is to take the heat out of the skin and just to make it look like we've got some of that sunset light bouncing off of her face. So let's just turn this node off and on, and you can see that her skin's looking a lot more natural and it isn't as hot. If you've ever wondered how to combat exposure or to combat light changes within a clip, this is how you do it. So that's all we've got time for today. If you are still here and you've been following along, thank you so much. Do remember to subscribe, drop me a comment. I will reply to it as soon as I can. This is also an open call. If you have any suggestions for rec709 tutorials that you want to see, drop those in the comments below and I will try and do these for you. In the meantime, check out the episode over here, how to grade rec709 footage, and I'll catch you in that episode. Thank you. Bye-bye.